Hello and welcome to another historic video. Today we're checking out this pretty crazy token combo deck with a recent addition of Academy Manufactor in the format. A 3-mana artifact creature, it's a 1/3, saying if we would create a clue, food or treasure token, instead create a 1 of each. And this card is especially good in multiples, because now with 2 manufactors on the battlefield, all of a sudden if we get 1 token, instead we get 3 of each, so that can get out of hand pretty quickly. And this deck is great at enabling the manufactor with our 2-drops especially. We have Samwise Gamgee saying whenever another non-token creature we control enters, create a food token. So now with the manufactor in play, that turns into 1 of each token instead. Can also sacrifice 3 foods to return a historic card from our graveyard to our hand. So that includes all the legendary creatures in this deck, but also artifact creatures, which includes our manufacturer, so that's also pretty convenient. And then there's Lonis, which is pretty similar to Samwise. Instead of making food, we get to make clue tokens, which can be sacrificed to draw a card. And we can also tap Lonis, sacrifice X clues to take a look at the opponent's library, although that's not an ability that comes up all that often. Instead, we're trying to kind of go infinite with Samwise when it comes to Cauldron Familiar plus Warden Soul Trader. So Cauldron Familiar, when it enters, will drain the opponent for 1, and we can also return it out of the graveyard by sacrificing a food. So if we sack a food, return Familiar with a Samwise in play, we will immediately get a replacement food token, and of course with Manufacturer we'll get even more stuff in return. So then all we need now is some sort of sacrifice outlet to keep sacking the Familiar so we can keep getting it back out of the graveyard over and over again, and that's where the Warden Soul Trader will come in handy, letting us pay 1 life and sack a creature to create a treasure token. And a treasure token's also pretty convenient when it comes to enabling the Academy Manufactor, so there's a lot of pretty convoluted combos we can set up once we get enough critical mass on the battlefield. And then another way we can win besides Cauldron Familiar is just by going super wide with Chatterfang Squirrel General, saying if 1 or more tokens would be created under our control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 Squirrel tokens are created instead. So this can also go crazy once we combine it with Manufacturer, especially with multiples. All of a sudden we'll get this huge army of Squirrel tokens out of nowhere, and then especially with a Soul Trader we can then also use those squirrels to generate additional treasures, which can then let us pretty much cast our entire deck. With enough clue tokens we can also draw through the entire deck, so we can pretty easily assemble any combo we want. And then Chatterfang also has an additional ability where we can sacrifice X squirrels to give a creature plus X minus X until end of turn, so we can then also use Chatterfang as a form of removal to take care of opposing threats that are maybe preventing us from going off. And then rounding out the deck, we also have some mana acceleration with a Delighted Halfling, which can also make our legendary creatures uncounterable, which is pretty relevant when we have 12 pretty important legends that we would like to resolve. And then Gilded Goose may not be as good as Lenor Elves in most decks, but here it's actually much better, as it will make a food token when it enters, which is another way for us to maybe trigger the Academy Manufacturer and get a lot of our synergies online. And then it can also tap for 2 mana to make an extra food, which can also maybe kickstart our various synergies. And then we also have some nice ways to put additional creatures on the battlefield with Collected Company, which can find 2 in the top 6 and put them in play. So that can also maybe find multiple 3-drops, which can be incredibly effective. And then Court of Calling can tutor up whatever 1 creature we want. Can also tap our creatures for Convoke, especially good alongside Chatterfang if we have a bunch of squirrels in play, as it'll become much easier to cast the Court of Calling to get whatever we want. And that also makes it easy to assemble the familiar Samwise plus Soul Trader combo, although sometimes we actively want to get a Manufacturer instead, and that'll help us go off from there. And then the mana base also has some pretty interesting inclusions, such as Yavimaya, which turns every land into a forest, including the opponent's, which is a way to enable the Forest Walk on Chatterfang, so we can sneak past any opposing blockers. And it's also a way for us to turn our own lands into forests, so we don't have to pay life when maybe tapping a starting town for green or a mana confluence, which are otherwise important to fix our colors, since this is a 4-color deck at the end of the day. And then Plaza of Heroes can also make colored mana to cast our legendaries, so it's often tapping for white or blue to cast Samwise and Lonis, but at least it doesn't cost us any life, also comes into play untapped later in the game, and we can also maybe sacrifice it to protect one of those legendary creatures. And then we also have a couple Overgrown Tombs, Blooming Marsh, 1 forest in case we need to search it up, and then Boseiju can also maybe help deal with some problematic artifacts or enchantments, which can also maybe prevent us from comboing off. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. Hand seems functional. Could use a nice curve topper, like a company or chord. Okay, Relic does stop some of our combos, sadly. But we can still beat it. Might have to just go wide with squirrels. If we're worried about a counterspell, we can just play a legend. I see, it's an aura deck. Okay, in that case, opponent's likely to get a sheltered by ghosts next turn. I guess we have double manufacturers, so one of them getting exiled is maybe fine. And keep Samwise safe. Next turn, probably just run it back. But we'll see. Cavern names Might for Skrelv. And there it is. And do we have a 2-mana aura? Yep, Feather of Flight, so get your sheltered by ghosts. We knew this would happen. Alright. At least they can search up another copy with Lightpaw's ability, but they could, of course, have another in hand. And draw another one, so yeah, I'll just play it here. I don't think I play the Halfling, since I want to save some creatures to play post-Samwise. So I could attack for one, doesn't really matter. Yeah, with triple manufacture we could have gone pretty crazy. 2 is still great if we could keep both in play. Next turn goes Samwise and then play manufacture afterwards. Opponent cycling the Relic, so we don't need to worry about it exiling a Cauldron Familiar. We are at 16, it's not impossible for them to present lethal. Another Feather. So can get sheltered, but can get an All That Glitters for added pressure, and then if they can, I guess with Cavern they're not casting many auras. Opponent goes for Ethereal Armor, so they may not have All That Glitters in the deck. So next turn they would be attacking for lethal. And another Relic, fair enough. And that's a Halfling. So this turn, Samwise first. Then play Manufactor. Which will then trigger Samwise. Instead of getting 1 food, we get 1 of each, which also gets turned into 3 of each now. So I get to play Halfling, which will trigger everything once again. And once again. So now we have to think. We have 7 treasures. So I could gain a bunch of life to survive, but I could also go digging with a clue. So 7 treasures means I can gain 9 life. I don't know if that's enough. I think I start sacking clues. Hope to find more creatures. Chord of Calling would be great too, and how about a Collected Company? That's gotta be worth it. And we hit a Lunus and Shatterfang, because Familiar doesn't do much for me. Gilded Goose as a flying blocker would also make some amount of sense, but we're about to make a lot of tokens here. Oh yes. And then Shatterfang can also be used as removal. We have 27 squirrels, so yeah, we should be able to just take out all of the opponent's stuff. Award 2 I can pay. So I can start with taking out Skrelv, I guess. Opponent can activate a response. And we activate Chatterfang in response to that. Which means we'll get our manufacturer back. Okay, so 6. This is pretty silly. That's gone. Manufacturer enters. And we're about to see the amount of tokens skyrocket. And Skrelv also gets taken out. So I could draw through my deck with all these clues. Find Cauldron Familiar, force them to use Relic, and then I can Cauldron Familiar again. But honestly, let's just pass, and then next turn I can just attack for lethal. That's gonna be a lot easier. But yeah, there we go. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand really just needs an extra land or two, or maybe a mana creature. Yeah, I think we try it. Double Manufacturer is pretty tempting. Opponent on Affinity with Emissary into Ornithopter times 2. Making a bunch of tokens. So could see Kappa Cannoneer next turn, which, yeah, can be pretty fast clock. It's gonna be a Tamiya first. They could still maybe do something else, but nope, just an attack with a couple 1/1s. Is there maybe a ninjutsu happening? Nope. Alright, so that was not too bad. They're also not representing a counterspell with Improvise, but they might have a burn spell, Galvanic Blast, makes sense. Fair enough. Cast Emissary, and a Mox. So it's still not the fastest clock ever. We have a few turns to set up, and I think Manufacturer makes sense. Then next turn, ideally draw an untapped land, so I can go Manufacturer into Gilded Goose and then start going off. Another Emissary is decent. So I can block, taking 6. And Samwise the draw, also decent. So I get to play Samwise into Gilded Goose. So I can still court for x equals 2, maybe get Lonus. And then Lonus triggers Samwise and Manufacture again. But that's about it. Could court for 1, get Gilded Goose, that might be better. Yeah, just thinking, if we get Lonus, I don't think we get as far ahead as if I get a Gilded Goose. Cauldron Familiar doesn't quite do it yet. Because I think I would be short on mana to play Soul Trader. But now I can play another Manufacturer. Cast Chatterfang. Cast Soul Trader. And then Soul Trader Can help me make more of everything, pretty much. Can also start sniping the opponent's creatures. Can sack a Gilded Goose, which makes a treasure, which turns into more of everything. So, yeah, we should have most angles covered. Can also just use the squirrels to shoot all the opponent's creatures. Can draw with clues. And just find Cauldron Familiar at some point. Boseiju can also be channeled. Maybe I should just remove their creatures and be done with it. Cast a Halfling. Now let's just use Chatterfang. Take out some of their creatures. Can also sack food to gain life. Just have to watch out that we don't get burnt out by another Galvanic Blast. And yeah, opponent realizes that they're pretty dead here. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand's a little too clunky. Company's great, but without any acceleration or earlier plays, it's probably not going to cut it. This I can keep. Wish I could keep everything, but one card has to go. So Goose into 3-drop and then another 3-drop is probably the curve we want to go for. And then... do I keep Chatterfang or Soul Trader? I guess I keep Soul Trader, because that way I get to maybe sack the Goose, immediately make a whole bunch of tokens, and pull ahead. Put on blue-red with a looting, so likely a graveyard combo deck. And those can win on turn 2. They already discarded Scholar and Emergent Ultimatum. So if they have the Persist, they could technically win the game next turn. It's going to be another looting for now. So we've been spared. We also see Sarah's Emissary. That could be a problem. Alright, so I think I still go for maybe a Soul Trader here. Wait on sacking the Goose. Flashback looting, alright, so we're getting about as much time as we can hope for in this matchup. And a Halfling. Alright, so what's my sequencing? If I go Samwise into Halfling, I get to make a food, which lets the Goose tap for mana. Can sack Halfling and Goose, play Manufactor. Seems like an okay starting point versus playing Manufactor first. Then the Goose doesn't have a food yet. I would have to sack it to the Soul Trader. I do get to make one of each. But no, this seems better. Make a treasure. Make a treasure. Cast this. Make one of each. And then I think that's going to be it for now. Next turn I can maybe sack a clue and dig for Cauldron Familiar, which does beat Sarah's Emissary, because it drains the opponent and doesn't target them. But yeah, opponents eventually found the Persist, so it might be too little too late. And we've got Breach, Expropriate, Rejuvenation. Yeah, none of these are going to be good for me. Seek X creatures, enchantments, or planeswalkers where X is the highest mana value. Put those in play. So that has to go. Although they milled my Cauldron Familiar. So can I just win now? I've got the remaining pieces in play. So if they're not careful here... Opponent went for Chatterfang, triggers Collar. Targets Breach, but in response... I just get to go off. So her opponent milling us might have actually won it for us here. Which would be highly amusing. With an Expropriate on the stack, no less. Their opponent's holding priority in response to the Samwise trigger, maybe with Chatterfang. Alright, opponent times out. And we get to keep going. We're also making infinite treasures. And infinite clues, so I could eventually draw my entire deck as well at instant speed. And with Court of Calling, that also means we can get whatever other creature we want. But yeah, as long as I'm careful here, we should be fine. Keep sacking stuff. So yeah, we have infinite everything if we really want it. But we'll get the job done with the familiar. Yeah, that was lucky. I wonder what happens if our opponent just steals the Cauldron Familiar instead. Because I don't think there's a window for us to put it in play when they mill it with Breach. But then if they eventually cast another Breach, we might mill multiple Familiars at once. Alright. We sort of timed out, but it doesn't matter. Because we can basically win at instant speed. So bring this back again. And one more time. Alright, we got there just in time. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a promising hand. Hoping Collected Company can find some of our missing pieces. And then for now, starting town. Could cast Chatterfang with Plaza as well. Facing Prismatic Vista for an island. And Ponder, so combo deck. Could also be a form of control. So having our legends be uncounterable is pretty useful. So this turn, I guess we could go for Chatterfang first. Just to get it in play. Despite the curve of Samwise into Chatterfang being a little better, since we would immediately get some tokens. So it is blue-black. And they're gonna Shieldred's Edict. Yeah, I'll lose the Halfling. And this turn I get to go Samwise plus Gilded Goose. Which will now generate food and squirrels. And we still have our collected company. With 3 foods we can also use Sam's ability to return a historic permanent from our graveyard to our hand. And there's the Manufactor. So we've got options. I think I'm leaning just attack, keep up company. Plus I can also protect Sam. And hope there's no board wipe. Opponent's gonna try and Fatal Push. Let's try and company response. Finding a replacement Sam and another Goose. Make a bunch of squirrels, a bunch of food. Okay. And then Sam can also return Sam, and our opponent has seen enough. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Very low curve hand with a Court of Calling, which can maybe get Samwise or Soul Trader depending on which piece we're missing. That's worth a shot. So best case scenario, draw Samwise here. Opponent on Eldrazi, so we could see Chalice on 1, which would be pretty effective, but we don't. Okay, in that case, play more mana creatures out while we can. They could cast a Thought-Knot Seer next turn already, but I wouldn't be able to court for anything right now. So we'll pass it back. Grove means at least no Thought-Knots. Kozilek's Return, ouch. Yeah, that's gonna wipe my board. And yeah, there's not much I can do here. Draw another Goose at least. So we're still in a position where top decking either Soul Trader or Samwise can quickly assemble lethal, but we're starting to run out of options, especially if they have a Thought-Knot Seer here. Labyrinth pitching Ugin, Eye of the Storms, opponent passes, and we drew Soul Trader. Okay. So they could still be keeping up another Kozilek's Return, or they could have Kozilek's Command in hand, which also makes a lot of sense, and that can interfere with my graveyard. So I think I just see what happens if we cast Soul Trader. They might exile Familiar in response. Or just cast another Kozilek's Return. Okay. So I can bring back Cauldron Familiar. Don't have to go for it now. So despite all this interaction, we could still maybe get there. Talisman's fine. And our opponent's gonna pass. Guess I can go for Familiar now. If they try and exile it, I can always activate it again. Possible that it's safer in the graveyard than in play if they do have a Coast LLC command. But I guess they would also just be able to exile the Soul Trader, which is maybe what they're going for. Alright, opponent just using Scavenger Ground. I didn't recognize the art at first. So yeah, we can just do this again. Okay. Take my turn. And I can accord for 2. Get Samwise. And that's the combo. I guess I do have to watch out for a potential Coast LLC command. Although that would only be for 0, so I don't think that can mess things up. So yeah, let's keep going. So now it's just a matter of not timing out, and our opponent concedes, saving us the trouble. Awesome, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing a Lourdes deck, so typically could be also a version of Samwise combo, just a different color version. I think we still have a keeper. So it's looking like a Samwise Sacrifice deck of some variety. And yeah, our hand's shaping up. And there's a Trap Finder. And a Guide of Souls, so they also have a bit of an energy theme. Slight missequencing of the creatures there. Well, hopefully they don't assemble their combo before we do. And Johnny's great if they can find Goblin Bombardment.
Where shall we hunt today?
Now Chatterfang. So Manufactor still seems like the preferred play. And then next turn maybe Chatterfang. Get one of each. I'll take the hit. Don't want to help them transform stuff or trigger their creatures. So pretty big turn here. Can they transform a Janny? They can. I guess they still need a creature in the graveyard to actually use the Nightmare. So yeah, that did not quite work out. Steal my Samwise, but you can sacrifice it to Nightmare if there's no target in the graveyard. And yeah, opponent just kind of shame scoops it up here. But yeah, we drew the Cauldron Familiar, so we easily had the combo next turn, can just play Familiar and Soul Trader. But I'm pretty sure with our current hand we could just draw our entire deck if we wanted to. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Just missing our Soul Trader to go infinite with Familiar and Samwise. Facing aggro, presumably some sort of Prowess or Wizards deck. So Halfling may get taken out. Yep, Chain Lightning, pretty recent addition to the format. And consider... Well, I'm gonna play Samwise, hopefully that survives. I see our opponents also including Arclight Phoenix. And a backup Samwise could be useful. So yeah, we've got a curve in mind. Next turn maybe Samwise into Familiar, and then Collected Company. Hopefully finding the missing creatures. Looting discards another Phoenix, so can they cast 2 more cantrips? Burst Lightning for starters. So they need to land and a 1-mana spell, which they seem to have. Nope, missing the 1-mana spell. So not getting back double Phoenix. And yeah, stick to the plan. We're at 12. This nerfed version of Cauldron Familiar cannot block, which could be relevant. Looting, discarding 2 more copies of Arclight, so they have all 4, but missing a way to get them back right now. Alright, so this is my opportunity to maybe find Soul Trader to win the game. Wow, that's a swing and a miss. Alright, so we might be dead here after all. Bolt Wave put me to 5. Ponder is definitely going to find a cantrip here. And then Quadruple Phoenix will cross the finish line. Alright, GG's. And a Chain Lightning. So yeah, we had a window where we could have won, but Collected Company giveth and Collected Company taketh away. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. This hand is highly speculative. If Halfling lives and we draw a land or 2, it could be fine. If not, we may not do anything at all. We are on the draw, so we're more likely to draw into another land. I think I still try it, because it does have pretty much all the pieces we need. Facing turn 1 Ponder, so it could be another aggressive prowess deck. Alright, Plaza helps. Still going for Halfling. Maybe next turn start with Manufactor. At least 3 toughness, survive some of the 2 damage burn spells. Opponent Teamer Colors. Halfling can make our legends uncounterable if they're keeping up counter spells. I see Crop Rotation. This is a Lotus Field deck, maybe. Counter the trigger, yeah. There's a bunch of these 1 mana effects. Consign to memory this. So next turn they get to untap with 5 mana, potentially. Which is pretty scary, but yeah, I think I still try Manufacture. And then next turn, Samwise into more creatures, or we can try Company. Stock up to go digging. Not sure how these Lotus Field decks plan to win the game, other than the initial ramp. Possible it's actually a Lotus Field combo, where they want to untap Lotus Field a bunch with various untap effects. Alright, we get to untap, so pretty decent. Now what's my sequencing? I could go Samwise even into another Samwise, just to trigger Manufacturer. Get a replacement treasure, that doesn't seem all that exciting. Samwise into Familiar makes 1 of each. I think Company still has the highest upside. Should probably main phase it. Find Soul Trader, and yeah, I don't think it matters. Chatterfang or Cryptozoologist. Pretty sure we have a lethal now. Can sack Halfling. Soul Trader, sack Squirrel. Since we have Samwise and Familiar. So yeah, we can make infinite Squirrels. But we can also just present lethal here, in case there was any doubt. And our opponent knows what's incoming and scoops it up. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a promising hand. Double Goose to speed things up, both Lonas and Samwise. So then Company would love to find our Manufacturer. Opponent with Lurrus as companion, so could also be kind of an energy deck or some low curve sacrifice build. Maybe more of an artifact deck or equipment. Yeah, Sigarda's Aid. Next turn we could see Colossus Hammer do some work. I think I just go Samwise and pass. And then wait on another goose until I play Lonus. So if they attack, I don't block and they have double hammer, I'm dead. But I don't want to just jump with a goose either. I mean, I could, and then just hope to draw land. What are the odds of double hammer? I'll block. So there's one. It will lose flying now, so we can jump it going forward. And another 8 is kind of redundant. Alright, so go for Lonus, take the hit, or I can go Halfling Goose and then jump. Maybe even jump with Samwise at this point, just so I can company and hopefully get ahead with maybe some tokens from Chatterfang, so those can jump going forward. We also have 3 food, so Samwise's ability can get back additional historic permanents. Opponent just puts Lures in hand, attacks. So I could take the hit, that's probably fine. Alright, so I can company. Probably should main phase it in case I hit something else that enables me to keep going. Double Soul Trader. Get some more food. So at the very least I can jump and sack, hoping they can give trample. Otherwise, let's see, can sack Halfling, make a treasure, these are all food. Yeah, I can still play Lonus, but it's not like I can go infinite here. So we'll pass. Could maybe send Samwise, but possible I need the extra toughness if they can somehow trample. Sentinel's fine. And play Lurus. Okay, so we're still alive. Jump and sack. Could again also jump with Samwise, but this seems okay. Take my turn. Play Lonus. And then I get to make some more food. Probably pass a turn for now. Could also play replacement Samwise just to get a clue, so I can start sacking clues. But I can just jump with Samwise first. Not in a hurry to attack. Sentinel attacking because they can get it back with Lurus, I guess. If one Soul Trader dies, it's okay. Yeah, this seems fine. We'll maybe sack a food to gain 3. Actually just 2 because of the mana confluence. Draw another one. Play Samwise, make a clue. And then I can still sack the clue if I'd like. Yeah, I'll tap the Halfling, that's fine. Play this one tapped. So we're flooding a bit. But we still have plays we can make. Can jump with Samwise while getting back another one, so those can just keep getting in the way. I'll first make sure to get back the other Samwise. Yeah, Academy Manufactor would go crazy here. Another Company or Chord. And of course, Cauldron Familiar would also be game over. So I'll take my turn. Boseiju can blow up Hammer, but then they just get it back with Lurus. But yeah, we'll keep it in our back pocket in case there's a way to give their creature trample. So sack the clue. Can play another halfling. And pass to keep up Boseiju. And then I can still sack another clue. Lion Sash is problematic since it stops our Cauldron Familiar plan and stops us from recycling Samwise over and over. But we still have that Boseiju, which can also maybe interfere. Could have responded by sacking 3 food, but then they just activate again, so that wouldn't have helped. So Sentinel's getting Swole, which also increases its tax. And they're now staying back with Ornithopter. Yeah, I'll just jump with a Halfling. Maybe should untap first so I don't lose another life to sack a clue. Alright, there we go, so now we should have it. Channel Boseiju on Lion Sash. Play Familiar. And go Infinite. And our opponent scoops it up. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a nice hand. Goose probably still Samwise before we Chatterfang. And then with the extra squirrels we can maybe cord for a Manufactor. Up against turn 1 island. They are considering making a play. Maybe deciding which cantrip to deploy. Ooh, Collected Company. That's a pretty nice play if we can resolve it next turn. For now, Samwise. So still haven't figured out what our opponent's up to. Blue-white. So it could be control. And a search for Ascanta. Alright, well, I could main phase this company while it's more likely to resolve. And then hopefully hit some nice creatures. Alright, could have been better. The Manufacturer would have gone a long way. But we still get to make a bunch of squirrels, some food. And then now I could still court for 3, get Manufacturer. Which would then make even more stuff. I mean, kind of going all in here, but it's maybe worth it while the coast is clear. I mean, I guess we also just have lethal if I get Soul Trader, because I have Familiar in hand. And yeah, this is food. Alright, fine, I'll win. Sack a squirrel, make a treasure, cast Familiar. Rinse and repeat. Okay, so turn 3 win. Not bad. Just a matter of not timing out. Opponent says good game. Alright, sweet, and that'll do it. So we got to see this pretty awesome token combo deck in action. And yeah, the Academy Manufactor definitely did a lot of work, allowing us to combo off from some pretty desperate positions as well, and getting to basically make all the tokens we ever want. And yeah, overall, the deck is probably going to be somewhat weak to hyper-aggressive decks, especially thinking of blue-red wizards, where they have disruption that can deal with our creatures, while also presenting a pretty fast clock. And then, of course, there's some other pretty fast combo decks in the format, like the various graveyard decks that can persist on turn 2. That's also going to be a pretty bad matchup, but we did get lucky in the video today to still beat them. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.